Sailplane Grand Prix at Gawler with one of the contestants, Peter Temple. Hello, Peter. How are you?
Fine, thank you.
So, Peter's this is his local club. Are you from this area?
Yeah, well, I've been flying here for lots of years. I won't say how many years, but this has been my home club for 25 years almost. So,
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So Peter knows the area very well and the weather conditions very well. And have you flown many Sailplane Grand Prix before?
I flew 2 qualifying events at Horsham in Australia, and then the Sailplane Grand Prix final in 2019 in Spain.
In Sardinia, La Sardinia.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Very good. And you've also, you've flown quite a lot of competitions in your history, haven't you?
Yes. Yeah.
And
mostly more traditional competitions rather than Grand Prix. So.
Yeah. And World Championships.
Yes. Yeah. Been 4 times. Yeah.
And where were those?
First one was in the French Alps, which was an eye-opener for me, flying in that terrain, so that was out of Venon in 2006. Rieti in Italy, 2008. In Slovakia in, I think that was 2010. And then the World Championships in Australia and Benalla in 2017.
Right, so 3 of those were in the mountains, but you don't consider yourself a mountain pilot, really, do you?
I'm not. No, I didn't. I wasn't born and bred in high mountains, and the highest mountain in Australia is barely 7,000 feet high. So we don't really have mountains here. But I did learn to fly on a ridge, so that gives me a healthy respect and understanding of the wind currents and what happens around ridges. Not very relevant for the competition here now.
So what are the conditions generally like? Here at Gawler and in this part of South Australia.
Can be spectacularly good, and then we have a lot of 5,000 feet in blue as well, so it can be fantastic, like it is today for the people that actually managed to get away from the aerodrome today. They're flying around under cumulus clouds at 12, 13, 14,000 feet today, so we can be spectacular. So
what was the dynamic of the conditions today? How did on the practice day? How did that go?
Challenging. We had a trough system that came through earlier than we anticipated, so some of the non-competition gliders that took off before the competing GP gliders actually got away, got under the queue, and they're out having fun right now. But unfortunately, the 3 competition gliders that were flying today on the practice day, 2,000 foot tow was not enough to get us to the good conditions. So none of the 3 of us actually did the task. So.
And that was because the sea breeze came in or was sucked in. How did that sea breeze?
Not so much a sea breeze. I mean, it's a combination of sea breeze and a trough. But the problem is that on the back side of the trough, you end up with winds being west or southwesterly winds, which then draws in air from the sea. It's not the traditional sea breeze in the normal sense, but it has the same effect. You're in. If there's any lift at all, it's quite broken and only going to 3,000 feet or perhaps a little bit more, and you really can't get away in those conditions.
Yeah, and if you do get away in those conditions, you get quite a lot of convergences as well associated with that sea breeze and other systems around here.
Yeah, I mean that makes it really interesting to fly around here because there's always convergence somewhere in the area, and for the task setting, of course, here the task setters are doing their best to try to make use of those convergences for the Grand Prix. So yeah, it makes it really interesting. We flew yesterday, and the task was set such that we could make use of the convergence on the way home, and the conditions were just ridiculous. I mean, we were above glide, we're doing 120 knots and basically couldn't get down at all. And that's what you can get once you're under one of these good convergences.
And what was that a convergence? What was causing that? What was the convergence between?
It was a convergence between that was a sea breeze, so the predominant wind direction and the sea air, because we're quite close to the coast here, so you're going to get maritime influence quite commonly.
Yeah. And then you also get influences or convergences setting up because of the various hill ranges around?
Well, it's kind of related as well. We have hills just to the east of us here. They're quite close. They're only within 5 kilometres, but they extend further to the east. So you actually get a sea breeze that forms up the western side of the hills, and another one on the eastern side of the hills, and they converge over the top of the hills. The ones on the eastern side of the hills, those sea breezes come up from a long way to the southeast from here, but they join up and merge over the hills.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Makes interesting conditions.
Yes, okay. And what, going back to your 13, Peter, at the beginning of this, sorry, we're now in 2023, at the beginning of 2022, you flew 1,300 kilometres, or was it 21?
I think it might have been 2021.
Yeah, the end
yeah.
anyway, the last season from here, Peter flew 1,300 odd kilometres on what looked like a fantastic day. Can you tell us a bit about the conditions that day that made that day?
Well, that was one of those days, not that dissimilar to today, well, it was a lot better than today, where we had a trough line that set up a fairly stationary trough line that extended pretty well all the way down from Tasmania, way in the southeast, to Central Australia. And along the line of that trough line, we had exceptionally good conditions. Cloud base at times was 15 to 16,000 feet. Climbs were not fantastic. I was only getting maybe 8 or 10 knot climbs, which for most parts of the world is actually very good climbs, but they weren't huge. But a lot of the time I didn't need to thermal, I just followed along that trough line, and that trough line later in the day got enhanced by convergence with the sea breeze as well. So the combination of those two meant that big distances were really possible. So the day started out very slow, exceptionally slow, but it just got better and better until eventually I thought, well, I'm going to have to go down now because the sun's setting. So one of those days where you could have stayed up all night, maybe, but can't fly at night. So, yeah.
Right. So very interesting site here at Gawler. So what do you think about the weather for the coming week for the competition, which starts in earnest tomorrow?
I would like to be optimistic about the conditions, but I did mention before that we can have some really fantastic conditions, like today is good for the people who are out there, and then we can get a lot of lower blue conditions, and unfortunately for the next few days that's what it's looking like. So the trough's already passed through. It'll be relatively warm temperatures, but not hot enough to get much in terms of heights of thermals, and we're looking at sort of 3,000 to 5,000 feet thermals around here, a little bit higher further north. So we're hoping that that we can get some reasonable flights in under those conditions. But later in the week, it's looking quite good.
Okay, so we've had couple of interesting practice days. We've got some low blue windy days tomorrow coming. Perhaps not, but low and blue, and then hopefully we'll have a rip-roaring end to the week. So thank you very much.